Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. All right, and welcome back to She Loves the Grid. Hello, Diane. This is Claire.
Hello.
Here we go. It's the end of the Japanese one, and oh my goodness, that all I gotta say is I thought it was a fun race. Wasn't super exciting, wasn't super boring. It was just fun.
It was, I think after practice and then especially qualifying, I was kind of anticipating a super boring race, and it wasn't. In that sense, I think when you go in expecting it to be super boring and like nothing's going to happen, because it's not a track that's usually one with a lot of overtaking and stuff. So I just kind of thought, well, here we go. After the second start, but it wasn't boring.
It wasn't boring. It wasn't super exciting, but it wasn't boring. So
Right.
anyway,
Agreed.
so before we get going, how was your week?
Good. I don't even know.
Yours is busy.
Busy. It's always busy. I think it's just how it's going to be. My company, this is the end, towards the end of our fiscal year. So wrapping things up, planning for the next fiscal year. And so lots of meetings, whatever. And then, yeah, I don't know. There's been so much stuff happening. Got my hair
Loving the haircut. Looks so good.
I just brushed it this morning, so it doesn't look cute. It's just, yeah. We're not necessarily like camera ready, but it is what it is. I just ran back from the farmer's market, and yeah,
it's hard to tell with mine, because with me leaving corporate America and being, going into the self-employment, my roots are actually a dark purple. It's just they're so dark purple, they just kind of look dark. So I'm gonna try to lighten the purple up because I'm trying to get a little funky, but we'll see.
I love it.
Mine is just closing out, the old job, getting ready, because as you know, I'm leaving for the States tomorrow, and in a matter of, because we record on Sunday, so by the time this publishes, I'll already be in the States. But yeah, I leave for the States tomorrow. So
yeah, it's exciting. So much going
on. Just so much going on. All right, well let's get going. Should we start with the helmets? We have so many fun helmets.
Yes, you know what? I'm kind of like, last year, did we start off with special helmets and liveries so early in the season? But I kind of dig it. I'm in. Charles. Okay, I will say with Charles, and again, if you're new to our podcast, if you go on YouTube, look us up. She Loves the Grid. We have photos for you.
Yes,
Charles,
so many good ones.
So many good ones this go round. Charles had a special helmet in honor of his racing mentor and friend, Jules Bianchi, who died in Japan racing 10 years ago. This was a 10-year anniversary. Charles' helmets, they're usually like something along these lines where it's a nod to Jules or a nod to his dad. And there's just so much passion and empathy. I don't know. Like it's just beautiful. Absolutely.
Well, I love this. These are the 4 pictures that came from his Twitter post. That's where I got these. And I love that it's like 2 on the helmet and 2 with his mentor and him as the little one and whatnot. What he said, and I took it out. He said, a special helmet in memory of a special person to me. Then he did the little heart. 10 years this year since we lost Jules here in Japan. So many memories together that I'll never, ever forget. I miss you, and I'll do everything to bring that helmet on the top step of the podium on Sunday. So it's just really sweet, just a really sweet dedication and fun personal pictures, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I think he's really sweet. And I do love the photo with the ray of light coming down on top of the helmet. That's really, really nice. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next we have a fun one with Fernando.
So it's weird having the Japanese Grand Prix so early in the season, because I feel like we just had the Japanese Grand Prix. And if you remember last year, Aston Martin did a whole theme leading up to it throughout the week about Samurai, because this is what I think it might be his favorite track, Fernando's favorite track, but he loves Japanese samurai, all of that. He really believes in their way of life. And so I kind of forgot that he might have a special helmet. I wasn't expecting it. And then it came out and I was like, of course, but it's amazing. It's
That's gorgeous.
beautiful with the mountain and the waves and just the the way his number is written.
I love the inside too, being so vibrant red to the inside of the
Yeah.
helmet as well. It's gorgeous.
I mean, really nice job. And again, I mean, this is a track in a country that means a lot to him, so it makes sense to have a
Absolutely.
special
Absolutely.
helmet.
And then of course, hometown hero.
Yuki Tsunoda. I think this is great.
It's
To me,
adorable.
it is. It's like playful and it's fun and it's young. Yuki's young. So I love it. I think it's
I think
great.
it's so cute. It's
And he kept
adorable.
his sleeves. So the leaves
Yeah.
go across the bottom of the front of his helmet, and they're a little bit more cartoon like, but I do like that he kept the leaves because that's usually on the top of his helmet.
It's on the belly too. On the top, on the belly of the little.
Oh, it is. I didn't
Yeah.
notice that. Yeah. So I like that he kept it. I like it's still got the Red Bull logo on there and all that, but yeah, perfect for his home race.
Yeah,
Nice
I
job,
think it's
Yuki.
adorable. Adorable. And I, because purple is my second favorite color, I love this one. This one is so cool.
Lando Norris, he never disappoints us. It's very kind of like vintagey. The purples and the pinks and yeah, it's cool. And it looks fast. Like with the way that those stripes come up the side of the helmet, it just looks fast.
Well, I thought it was neat too that he took the picture, he posted the picture of the two with the helmet, and then he had that third picture in the middle with that car too. I know it's not an F1 car, don't come at us, but he posted that, so I thought that was kind of cool that he's got that extra car in there. And then speaking of McLaren, that's the last of the helmets. They did their livery and they kind of did it the whole garage, which I thought was kind of cool.
I love a theme, and when you carry it through. From the numbers to the car livery to the garage, like you said, bring me a theme and carry it all the way through. I love the colors, like the orange and the blue is gorgeous together.
Again, like I mentioned it before, flashbacks. Those are my high school colors. So
that's right. So
it's
we
nice
learned. Go ahead.
It's nice seeing them not related to my high school though. So
I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate to that. No, so we learned that this is an edomoji inspired design. And what we found out is that edomoji is a type, it's a font, and it was created back in the Edo era of Japanese to draw attention. And so there's a lot of history behind it. I just thought that was really kind of neat. They carried it through on their numbers. I love it. Nice job. It's a nice little nod. Like it didn't overwhelm the car, but it's a nice little nod.
I like when you're showing like respect for the area that you're in and whatnot. Someone mentioned like Lewis and some of his attire and whatnot, and and wearing a mask, which is very respectful for the area. So that was really cool.
No, I think that's great. And I think that's important because the fans at this track are so respectful to all of the drivers. It's not like some places where, you get picked on or, whatever, because you like a certain team. They love everybody. They're excited for everybody. And so I think it just must be very special to be there. So for the teams, it's important, I think, to be respectful.
So how do we do this, man? It was a weekend.
Yeah, I know. I think, well, let me just share really quickly because this could affect us. But so the word on the street is that Charles Leclerc is opening a ice cream shop in Milan.
Yum.
I hope it's true because guess where we'll be going? Guess where we'll be going.
Someone was asking me the other day the races we're going. So it's going to Barcelona, the one in Italy. It's like, which one in Italy? It's like Monza. What airport is that? And like Madrid comes out of my mouth. They're like, that's Spain. I'm like, I know it's an M1. Give me a second. I could not think of Milan to save my life. I'm like, it starts with M. Give me a second.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. What else? I mean, there was the drivers. What I thought was kind of cool. We talked last week about how this is one of those tracks where they go and they're actually doing things. And And because, again, the race is so much earlier in the season, it's cherry blossom season. And so it's just gorgeous. And the drivers the week earlier in the week were so many pictures. They're doing their runs and running underneath all these cherry blossoms. It's just beautiful. And then what else? You had Lewis launched his GQ posing, modeling photos, which were amazing. And Oscar and Ocon were racing cars. Last year it was Ocon and Lewis. This year it's Ocon and Oscar. So, yeah, they were all doing stuff. But I don't know. I almost think like let's just jump right into. I mean, we'll start with the race, but we can talk about everything. I think we should break it down by team, and
that works.
Let's start with okay. First of all, race today. The weather. It was supposed to rain all week. They were saying it was going to rain. And it didn't. And it was warmer than it had been the rest of the weekend. So I don't think the teams really had the data that they thought they might. And on top of that, it was all about strategy. Like it was so kind of mind-blowing to watch how the teams were reacting and changing things up, especially after the red flag, which we'll talk about. But it was definitely all about the strategy today. But I think first and foremost, we have got to talk about Williams. Oh my God. This team cannot get a break.
They can't get a break. They can't get a break. And you know, if I were Alexander Albon, I don't know. I don't know what I would feel. I don't know how I feel. I mean, I know they've got a level of professionalism and part of it's probably waters off the duck's back. But I mean, to wreck out the car and then be given Logan's car and be told race it, he has to sit out, and then in Australia, and then come here and you kept technically Logan's chassis. That's now your new car. Logan gets your old car and chassis that's repaired, and then it's wrecked again. So now they've got two cars that they're having to deal with that are repaired cars going forward.
It's so bad. And I mean, like, I don't think that what happened in the race with Alex, I don't think that Danny knew he was there. I don't know if it's a racing incident or what. I don't think Danny knew he was there. I don't know if Alex should have tried going up on his right. Yuki had just gone through there and Daniel was watching Lance on his left. But that wasn't the only thing. I mean, in practice, Logan bends his car. And like you said, he didn't even have the good chassis, but when he bent his car, he had all the little upgrades that they brought, because they did bring some. It wasn't a lot, but they did bring some. Gone. They're gone. So when they rebuilt his car, thank God FP2 was just rain and nobody really went out and did anything, because the team had to rebuild that sucker, which I'm sure those poor mechanics are like.
They need a raise, man. They've been pulling off miracles for that team, man.
Yes. So it was already, like you said, Logan was already driving the chassis that Alex wrecked in Australia. He has upgrades, runs into the wall. Car isn't ready for FP2. James said it was a major crash. It messed up the floor, the front wing, all of the suspension, and the gearbox cracked. So it wasn't a tiny little thing. So they didn't get out in FP2, finally got out in FP3. I felt a little bad because after that happened, I felt like people online and the media were automatically straight to like, Logan really needed to show us something today. Like, this isn't good. Like, dude, he didn't crash in Australia. That was Alex. Like, he didn't even race in Australia. He's had 2 races this year. And yes, he messed up. He also crashed here last year. Like, he probably has no confidence at this point. But anyways, so in quali, Logan didn't have the new parts on his car. He did not have the upgrades like Alex did at that point. So he wasn't probably going to do as well. There you go. But the race today, oh my gosh. James seems to think that it's fixable. Here's the thing. Alex was driving the only undamaged chassis that Williams has. James had already told us at the beginning of the week their third chassis would not be available until Miami. So that's like a month from now, basically. What in the world? Now, all the new parts when he crashed this morning got ripped off the car. So James said they have to rebuild all the new parts, not just one car, but two cars. And they have really about a week to do it because everything will get sent back. They'll have this coming week. And then a week from tomorrow, Monday, is supposedly when everything will get shipped to China for the race. Can they do it? We don't know. Will there be two cars? Maybe. Will they just have one? Could be. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. Like, the people at Williams have got to be freaking out at the moment. And when you take all of that, then Logan does his little, whatever it was, spin towards the end. I will say that Logan seemed to be doing all right. He was
looking good for a while. He was passing cars. I was so proud of him when he was passing, and he was good. Then I turned around and I was like, wait, why is he in last place? What happened? Because as I told you this morning, as I rewatched it this afternoon, but this morning, because it was so early for me, I was dozing in and out of it. So I was like, oh, he's doing well. Then I passed out. I woke up. I'm like, wait, how did Logan get to the end?
Yeah,
what happened? And it was a spin out.
Yep, just a spin out. And I mean, I'm glad he got out of that gravel. At the same time, why are you reversing onto the track? Fernando, I think it was Fernando, had to take evasive action, or somebody did, because he's like pulling out backwards onto the track. But anyways, I mean, hopefully there's not too much floor damage there. We'll have to wait and see. I think what really stinks for Williams is I think that when they're good, they're competitive. Like we saw today, Logan was passing cars. We've seen Alex doing pretty well. They just can't catch a break. And what's going to suck is like there is a cost cap. And you've had 3 crashes in 4 races, and you may not be able to bring all of the upgrades that they were hoping to bring this year because you're not going to be able to afford it. We'll have to wait and see. I think they'll have 2 cars, but they just may not be. And
with that wreck, I'll show the picture for people who are watching.
With that
wreck, he's in the lower right here. It was interesting, the comments that the driver said. So Albin said, I think I had not a great start, but obviously a better than the medium tire drivers. Had good traction out of turn 2. And that was really that was it really. I don't think Daniel saw me. And then it was just a bit of pinching moment. I tried to get back out of it, but couldn't quite get out of the way quickly enough. It was a tough one to take. Obviously, we're not in a great position as a team with parts and just general damage for cars.
Yeah. I thought for a second that Alex was going to escape that because he did kind of fall back. But I honestly think, I want to go back and watch this. I honestly think that one of his tires caught the grass. And at Suzuka, we saw it. If your tire catches the grass, I think you're just done. And I think that's what happened. I think he almost could have gotten away with it.
You're exactly right, because he continues to say, honestly, it wasn't a big crash, but the way that hit the wall, it was a tire wall, and we don't have that many tire walls anymore in F1. Yeah. The way the tire went under the car and it ripped the car. So when the car went to a good amount of speed to 0 so very quickly, I'm just worried. It didn't get a good look, but a look at it because it's under the tires, but hopefully it's okay.
Yeah.
So he mentioned something about a tire under the car. So I don't know if he meant that when he was hit it, the tires went under. That picture doesn't look like tires went under it. So I wonder if that was something different. But I agree. When it hit, it does kind of look like he kind of goes out into the grass. But at the same time, Danny says that we were trying to scrambling to get grip. Then I was starting to drift to open up 3. I felt Alex. I saw his onboard, and he was just so much better drive out of 2. I don't even know if he wanted to be there, but he could see me kind of going a little bit sideways. So he admitted he was going sideways, and
he totally was.
And it was unfortunate, and so it was an interesting hit.
Very, very. I mean, and it was like right at turn 3, so we weren't even that far into the race.
We were seconds into the race. We weren't even a minute in. I mean, we just started.
seconds. And I thought, oh, everybody got away clean. Okay, we're past the first turn. And then all of a sudden they're like, yellow flag. Oh no.
They're red. I mean, and luckily both drivers are okay. But then you see Danny.
Oh, let's talk about Danny and V-carb. Yeah, that's not a good thing for Daniel. It just is. It just isn't. And again, I think he did kind of get sandwiched. Maybe I need to go back and look, but between Lance, oh my gosh, I had Lewis, Lando, like with all the L's were going through my head there for a second. Lewis, no, Lance on his left. I mean, it's craziness. And they had a new floor, but I mean, here's the thing with Daniel, like he hasn't raced at this track for a few years now, at least a couple of years.
Yeah,
he did not practice FP1 because we had the Red Bull junior driver who did a very good job. Like they were not trying to do time with him. They had a program they wanted him to do, and he was successful with it. And he was so thankful when he came back into the garage. So he didn't get FP1. Then FP2, I don't think it was really raining, but nobody wanted to go out because you weren't going to get any
real
useful
data.
Yeah, you weren't going to get any useful data. So he didn't do that. And then in FP3, he spins the car. And like, okay, then it's quali. He does all right? Like Yuki ended up knocking him out of Q2 by 0.05 of a second. So I'm like, okay, Daniel, here we go. And then nope, not so much. I mean, he's got to be frustrated. Like,
yeah. And then the fun little picture we have about,
oh my gosh. So here's the thing. If you're not on our YouTube, it's a picture. This is from after the race. Daniel's just in the garage watching the screens, and Liam Lawson is right behind him, just also watching the screens. What's really funny about this is all weekend, Liam Lawson is right behind Daniel. In FP1, when Daniel's on the pit wall watching, Liam Lawson right over his shoulder. Daniel, I think, was doing an interview. Here comes Liam Lawson right through the picture. I mean, it's everywhere. It was hysterical. I was dying laughing. The other thing that came out earlier this week is that Liam Lawson has allegedly been promised a seat at V-carb next year. So who's going? Right now, Yuki's performing and Daniel is not. So the pressure, I think, is on. And to me, then when you see pictures like this with Liam looking over your shoulder, it's more than a metaphor. I think.
Absolutely. That is. Yeah, and I heard him in a couple of pressers this weekend too. He's sounding good and whatnot. So yeah, that's what I thought about Danny. I was like, you're here to try to show, and now I kind of think retrospectively, and of course a lot of it's just how much the media shows and whatnot. I did not see a lot out of Danny and his happy, jovial self, or as much of him this weekend.
I think not even for a couple weeks. I don't feel like they used him like they usually have in Australia. Yeah. I feel like last year when he wasn't even a driver, he did way more video and social media, and it was very fun. I don't think that he is having fun right now.
No. I'm sure he's worried.
It is. But let's talk about my little global treasure, because this was his home race. And if you're new to our podcast, Yuki is a global treasure. And
I came so close. It's 9:00 this morning, post my time, posting the race results going, because I would say Yuki got the points, and I almost put Diane's little global treasure.
He is a global treasure. He had a great week, I think. Obviously, he's the Japanese driver. It's his home race. People love him there. I think just being home is special. But oh my gosh. I mean, he got into Q3. Amazing. He had some great overtakes today.
Oh, those overtakes of those S curves. Oh my gosh. And he was one of the first ones. The commentators were like, check him out. This is not normal. We're not supposed to have overtakes here. And look at Yuki doing the S curves. And it's almost like the other drivers are like, well, if Yuki can do it, we can do it. And then they started doing the same thing.
Yes.
That's when, to me, the race started getting like, oh, okay, it's not boring. This is a little exciting.
Yeah. But like, why has nobody done that before? we all just figured, okay, this isn't a great track for overtaking. Okay. And nobody's tried it. Like Yuki did it multiple times today. It was awesome. And then they had a really good pit stop that was so important because there was a bunch of cars that came in, like his peers around him, that midfield, and they got him out ahead of everybody else. That was huge. And he was on the radio like, thank you so much. Like, that was great, you guys, I love to hear that. I love him, giving them their
calm, positive Yuki versus a freaked out negative Yuki.
But I mean, he ended up 10th. He scored points in his home race. And I think it's the first points for a Japanese driver at their home race since 2012. So 13, what is it? No, 11 years? No, wait, what year is this? 2024? I'm thinking it's 2023. It's 2024. Yes, 12 years. So good job. And again, I mean, obviously Daniel crashed, but Yuki outperformed him.
And he has these 7 points for RB.
That's right.
He's carrying it, so which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he is up there. He's beating Ollie Behrman in points now. So there you have it. And the team celebration afterwards was so cute. Like the team, when he came up, and you know how they posed for their picture in front of the garage with all the team, and they were cheering. And then a couple of them like lifted him up, like the little king that he is. Seriously, what a great race. That's how you want your home race to be. I mean, if you can't win it, at least be in the points. And I think Yuki's doing everything that he can do so far this year to keep that seat. So if Liam has been promised a seat at V-Carb next year, might have to be Daniel's at this point. We got a long way to go in the season. I know, but yeah.
Might have to
be. Okay, who else? You know who else I wanted to talk about really quick, though, that I was like, this is another team. Stake F1 team.
I was thinking the same thing, and I'm not even looking at the notes. The notes are kind of weird this week. Yeah. So I'm like, Stake, what happened? Like I don't even know what happened. Like when Joe came in, and even the commentators are like, well, he didn't change tires. Like, they adjusted his front wing.
Yeah, they adjusted his front
and then he comes right back, and they're like, oh, sorry, man, your gearbox is we're done.
Yep, it was his gearbox. Like, seriously, here's the thing. Like, and this track is not Joe's track, right? Like, it just isn't. But I don't know how, and maybe he had gearbox issues all weekend. But one thing that stood out to me during qualifying is, why is Joe in 20th place out in Q3 out in Q1, and Bottas is in 8th? That is a huge difference between teammates. Massive. Allegedly in the same car. To me, I thought that was really interesting. Their pit stops were better-ish. They were like 4 to 5 seconds. That's better than 40 seconds, which is where we've been. But yeah, I don't know. It's like Bottas could have been in the points again, but he wasn't. So I just don't know what to do about this team or what to think about them. Maybe that's a better way to say it, not what to do about them. I just don't know what to think about them. They're all over the place. And it's like that's like 2 races in a row, I think, where Bottas should have been in the points, but he wasn't in the points.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like what?
It's very, and I think then, so jumping from them, although let me say this first. So we go to China is our next race. We have an off week this coming week. Then we're in China. It's the first time we've been in China since 2019. Joe will be the first Chinese driver to drive there. You all better get Joe a car that can finish a race, and we don't mess up his strategy with ridiculously long pit stops. Like you've got to give him something to work with at his home race. You just do. I've said it. There we go.
Did we confirm that Stevenson from Red Bull, he did go to Sauber, right?
Yeah, he started there Monday. Max's former chief mechanic. Yes. So maybe he fixed the pit stop issue for the most part. I mean, we got it down 35 to 40 seconds, but but still, what?
It was just really sad that one of the stats that came up was that this is 7 times in a row that Joe has missed out. He got out in Q1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I start to feel for Joe. Like, I feel like he probably has the skills to be an F1, but the stake F1 team, whatever they were called last year, not even remember.
Alfa Romeo,
thank you. Like, what were they? They have not given him a car. Like, how can you be successful when nobody even remembers you're on the grid in 2023? In 2024, you're screwing up both of the drivers with awful pit stops because you're stripping the nuts or whatever on the wheels. I feel for him because I don't think he's going to have a seat next year in F1. Somebody else is gonna come up, and I don't know that's fully on him. I just don't. I don't know.
No, I agree. I can see that happening. Yeah, I can see that.
That's sad. But maybe he'll enter his full-time model era. But I like Joe. I do. I like Joe. I just think it's sad.
Yeah, I agree. What do you have to think about Haas? Almost look on your face. Like, to me, Mag and Nico, they seem to be they're consistently just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just there.
And they're kind of doing the same thing each week, where they're starting and they're getting there, and K-Mag's starting to do stuff that it's just not enough. Something slips. I mean, it's a little better, knock on wood, than the car blowing up. How many fires and engine fires did we have last year?
Yeah.
I mean, we're only race 4, but it's just kind of blah.
It's just, I feel like maybe this track just wasn't for them, because I think they were doing pretty good the first couple of races, like better than they have been, right? They're not consistently at the bottom, and you still have Hulkenberg bringing the car at least into Q2. I think K-Mag's another driver that's going to be gone. I just don't, and again, may not be all on him. Haas has not had a great car the last few years that he's been there. But I mean, if you're keeping one of those two drivers, I'd at least keep Hulkenberg, because he can at least bring the car up in quali. But from there, I don't know what their deal was today. Maybe it just was not a track that suits their car. They just were kind of nowhere at all. I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about them, except
it's just it's an interesting situation with them. I mean, they've got some points. Hulk's got more than Mag, but yeah. Anyway, they're just kind of there.
They both scored last race, which was great. So maybe this one, and again, China will be a very different track than this one was. So maybe they'll kind of bounce back. But yeah, they were one of those teams. I was like, okay, they were there today. All right. Same with Alpine, though.
Alpine is just, and what a fall from grace. I mean, last year at least they were midfield. Now they're just bottom of the pit.
They're terrible. And they came this week with a new front wing, which was supposed to be less heavy. It was supposed to be lighter than the old one, but it didn't really get them very far. Although Ocon did make it into Q2. And by the way he celebrated on the radio, you would have thought, dude got a podium. He was so excited. And I was kind of there for it, because I thought, yeah, celebrate these small wins. Like, maybe you guys are heading in the right direction. And then in the race today, everybody was passing them. Where did they finish? Did they finish at the bottom?
I'll look it up. But that excitement just shows you that's just 3 races of frustration and letdowns, right? Yeah. Just that oh my gosh, we've got something. Ocon finished 15th and Gasly 16th. The only one behind them was Sargent and the 3 DNFs.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody was just passing them left and right. They looked bad. So Gasly, after the race, said that he had contact on the first lap And so that broke the floor and cost like downforce of 7 to 9 tenths per lap. So that's what he was saying. Then Esteban said that he had damage at the beginning. And so that was what made him so slow. I know at one point I think they bumped into each other, but I don't think that that's what they're referencing. I don't think that that happened and caused the damage. But they're both saying they had damage from the get-go. I don't know.
And it's like where? I mean, I just don't recall a lot of it. He seemed, other than, a couple of spin outs and then the big, the big-ish crash and it caused the red flag and turned two or three. I don't recall much.
Yeah, I think it was kind of in that, like that first crash, but I don't think it was anything major. But I mean, I'd like to see it, because if Gasly's saying his floor was broken, like that would have been a pretty decent hit. So
yeah,
I don't know. But again, I think these are, I mean, maybe Gasly wouldn't lose his seat, but I feel like both of these drivers might be fighting for their lives, but they have a terrible car. So where do you get rid of drivers and where do you put the blame on the car? That's going to be the tricky part this year. But let's talk really quickly about Aston Martin, because I feel
Aston Martin, yeah, I've seen some talks and I've heard some commentary and whatnot between Fernando and Lance. And so Fernando, I think it's really interesting. I get angst because I love him, right? I love Fernando. Yeah. I want him to do so much better, and I get a little, I don't know, overly protective when especially when I hear the commentators. They didn't do it this race, but you hear the commentators a lot of times talk about, well, this racer wasn't even born when Fernando blah 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 blah. I think about like the whole ageism thing. It's like, let's get over it. Look how this guy is there. He's still a top performer and whatnot. The strategy, and they talked about how he was not going to let them pass. Like they were trying to pass him, and he's like, nope. And and I still think it was a kind of BS call last race that took his points away. So
I do too.
I mean, it literally, it's like he could have caused a problem, but he didn't.
Right.
Like he didn't. And anyway,
it's racing. But
it's really interesting. Lance's behavior was a little interesting.
This like, I didn't see what
but I mean, just his, like, I don't know, just his reactions on the radio and whatnot. It's just more like anything. His radio.
Okay. So they both were complaining about the speed of the car on the straights.
Right.
But as soon as I heard Lance's radio towards the end, where he sounded like Bobby Brady on the Brady Bunch when his voice was changing, that I thought, oh no, he is going to be roasted online. And sure enough, somebody posted something about his voice cracking.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Lance, you should have just, because it was so high pitched. Like, what?
When it happened, because I was like working on my dog's website, and I was like, what happened? What's going on? Because it like pulled my ear away, because I'm like, what the? It was like almost like something major happened. I'm like, it's not even that. The tone of his voice made me think like sky was falling, and it wasn't that. It's like, oh my gosh, Lance.
Like he was crying or something. I don't know. He was scared to death. It was too funny. Oh my gosh. That's going to get played a lot. It has to get played a lot. It's freaking hysterical. I think. What I think is
really the way they did the upgrades though. Like Lance got them first, and then Fernando. I appreciated you like pointing out in one of the fan groups. People were like slamming and saying that, oh blah blah blah. It's like Fernando got the upgrades, guys, before quali.
Yes. They're like, oh, Lance is so bad. And after calling, like, oh, look at where he's at. Yes, there's a disparity. There was definitely, but learn your facts. Fernando got the upgrades. Nobody raced or did practice FP2, and they broke curfew to make sure that Fernando could get the upgrade. So it wasn't just Lance running it.
And Aston Martin suffered nothing for that. No penalties, no fines or anything for breaking curfew.
No, because you get 2 of them.
Yeah.
So this is just their first one. So they're good there. But they were very secretive about the upgrades. They weren't showing anybody that car this week until I think right before FP1. I think they let the press in to see it. But it's kind of a throwback to their 2022 side pod, which was a total knockoff or a dupe. Now I think is what they call it, a dupe of the 2022 Red Bull side pod. So they're working on that. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I hope that they don't go backwards. It didn't.
That's not pull Canada.
Let's not pull a Canada. But knowing that they were both complaining about the speed on the straight and they just had this upgrade package, like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
And then Mercedes, my other favorite green team.
Mercedes, like, okay, this is another team. Like, what? What?
I gotta stop liking favorites because, like, I'm starting liking Ferrari.
What's that?
I'm starting liking Ferrari.
Do it. Come to our side. Yes.
To your side. Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know. It's like Lewis said in the end that the car, he couldn't steer it, in the race today, that he was struggling with the steering, that he just literally could not get the car to steer.
Yeah. He said he bumped into Charles or something at the beginning. So he thinks he picked up damage from Charles, and he had understeer, which is why at the beginning of the race, he said, should I let George pass? And I mean, I thought he was just being nice. I was like, oh, look at this teamwork. But then after the race, Lewis came out with that was the reason why. Lewis was not happy overall. And I'm wondering if he's watching the Ferraris, who are looking good this year so far, and thinking like, just let me get through the rest of these races. Because Lewis is on his radio today. You need to change the strategy. What, during practice, or was it during quali? He's like, how are we down a half a second? Every time he came back out of the pits today, he's like, how are we losing more time? Like, he was so perplexed why that car is so far behind everybody else.
And he finished 48 seconds behind Max. 48 seconds. I mean, he was the last person to finish. He's finished 9th, but he was the last person to finish without being lapped, because Yuki got 10th, but Yuki was lapped.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, not good. Lewis is probably ready to get on out of there. He definitely is confused. But really quickly, speaking of that, I do think that in Q3, it was kind of hysterical when you had, well, I guess at the end of Q2, Charles is saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where we're going to find more time. And then Alonso is saying the same thing.
Yeah, Alonso got P2, and then people got ahead of him, and he was in the pits. He's like, I can't get more speed out of this car. I just can't.
He's like, I don't.
And then Lewis was like, I can't get more speed out of this car. I'm like, nobody except for Max is like, oh, we could do better.
Yeah, Max is like, not bad. There was more time there, but it's good. It'll do. And everybody else is like, where do we find time? We can't find any time. Oh, I mean, that's why Max finished so far ahead, I guess, today. I mean, not as much as some days, but Russell. Oh, yeah, Russell. So his team got fined for the unsafe release in, was it qualifying?
Yeah, it was qualifying.
Like $5 million or something.
Yeah, it was qualifying, and they sent both cars out at the same time, and almost caused a problem. Yeah, it was qualifying.
Yeah, he almost ran into somebody, and you could see, if you watch that video, you can see
Q1 in qualifying.
Q1. Yeah, you could see George look back at his garage, like, why did you send me out here? And I'm glad, honestly, that they gave the team a penalty or a fine and not the driver. I don't think it's fair when a driver gets penalized with either 5 seconds or a grid drop or whatever, because their team told them to come out in the pits. So
yeah, because like you said, they were in the garage. So he came, and they released both of them. They basically released them both at the same time, because you see in the video them come out, and both of them come in the nose. And George's car is the one that almost hit and had to stop. But you see Lewis's car like right behind it, and they're both. It's like, what? Who's paying attention? Why don't they have somebody with a cute little rear end, like, Mercedes or Ferrari out there watching? Make sure nobody's coming.
Alessandro.
Yeah,
we need an Alessandro 2.0. If you don't know Alessandro, just Google Charles Leclerc's lead mechanic and you will see what we are talking about.
There's plenty.
We love Alessandro.
Keep those releases.
Yes, safe release. Yeah, cute little behind. I wondered where you were going with that. I was like thinking that the car's tail end. When you said Ferrari, I was like, I mean, I guess their back wing is cute. I don't know.
Cute? You can call it that.
Cute little behind that rear wing. Now I see where you're going. All right, I'm on it. So Russell. Okay, also about Russell. The end of the last few races, he becomes an absolute menace. And he was at it again today. Like, I mean, him and Piastri at the end, they were wheel to wheel. I literally posted a reel on our page of him like pushing Piastri off the track. Sorry, they said it's a no. I think they said there was no need to look. It was a racing incident, whatever. But that was darn close. Like you were both looking like you were gonna crash there. But then George ended up passing Piastri on the very last lap. But he is keeping it interesting on these last laps, man. Like there's like a desperation or something there. I don't even know. He is just like, I've got to do it. I've only got 3 laps to do it in. And he's gonna crash or he's gonna get ahead.
Exactly. It's almost like we could start running stats. Like how many times does George like really jump ahead at the end, or did he just bone out? Like it's one or the other. It seems that's all it's going to do with them.
Yeah, he's a bit of a menace. So we'll have to see what happens. Before we talk about Ferrari, because they were great. I mean, I feel like there's not a lot to say about Red Bull. Good job. 1-2. Woo. I think Perez did great. Perez did awesome.
There wasn't a lot of talk about Perez. So he had a clean race. He did really well. It was nice and methodical and technical, and it just wasn't. He's racing clean and
he's passing cars. He's doing what he needs to do. And
I just worry he's becoming an afterthought. Yes, he's performing, but he's just like quietly performing.
I mean, sometimes that's just what you need to do. Put your head down and get the points and show the team why they should not be trying to promote anybody else into your seat. He's also fighting for his seat this year. So as long as I think he's keeping it 1-2 and keeping it close to max, he'll be back next year. I don't know why you would change it at this point. I've said that the last 2 podcasts. I don't want to be anybody in leadership at Red Bull because, but like if I was, I would be keeping this team right now.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. But
might be getting rid of some leadership, but you would keep the team.
Yes. I would get rid of the leadership. I would clean house there. But most of them. Adrian knew he can stay. He can stay. Yeah. I think it's time for a culture change. Anyways. Okay. Ferrari. Okay. I feel like it was a tale of 2. Again, like Charles and Carlos. Charles not happy with his setup quite a bit. Practice after FP1 changed some things in the car. Nobody went out FP2, FP3. They went out at the very end, two laps. He was not happy about that.
No, and Charles was talking about that. Like what was he saying? I've got his quote on that one. I know you've got a quote for later too, but Charles was like, honestly, I don't get it. It's not FP3. What are we doing to stay in the garage? We have 2 laps. Let's be on it. Come on. I mean, he was just not happy.
No, why would, he's right. Like you change the car and you don't do any kind of real running on it. Like what? No, absolutely not. So after that was a little worried, just a little scared. And then in quali in Q3, right? Like he just did a couple runs. He said today, the last 2 weeks of qualifying, he just cannot get the car and the tires and everything where he wants it. He's not qualified well, and that's usually where he really, really excels, in that 1 lap pace.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't done it. And so he was P7. And he said, that's the best I could do. So Okay.
And of course, but there's a good chunk of the fan sites and whatnot are going, Ferrari let go of the wrong driver. They should have kept Carlos, 'cause
Why not
Carlos,
keep them both? They didn't have to get rid of any of their drivers. And
and
I feel
Carlos
like
is killing it. He is killing
Carlos
it.
is amazing. Like, he is clearly very comfortable and confident in this car. The changes that they made, he gets in that car and he feels he can do what he needs to do.
4
So
points behind Leclerc. 4 points, and he
Yeah.
has missed one race.
Carlos is the only driver to have a 100% podium record so far this season. The only one. The only race he has not been on a podium was when he had an emergency appendectomy. He had his appendix removed. That was the only time he's not been on the podium. And today he did. He looked better. And granted, Charles did a one stop, so his tires were not fresh at the end. And I mean, Carlos was just going to go past. But still, like, Carlos is on it. I mean, he's in the zone. They both drove really well. Is my thought at the very beginning when both McLarens pitted, I was a little worried. I was like, oh God, if we mess up this strategy, I'm going to be so mad. But they were patient, and Carlos was calm, and he just did what he needed to do and got past the people he needed to get past, and he ended up on the podium. That's incredible. Charles also did well. He was leading for a little while. Then he was in third. Then he just, his tires were old and he was dropping back. But at the same time, he started eighth, finished fourth. He's driver of the day. That's not bad. Like, I know he wants more. I get it. I know
their times are good though. Their times are really good because there's 12 seconds between Max and Sergio, and then there's 8 seconds between Sergio and Carlos, which is not too bad. Considering the Red Bull, and then there's 6 seconds between Carlos and Charles, and 3 between Charles and Lando, and then they between Lando and Fernando. There's like 15 seconds, so it's a pretty big gap from there. So that's pretty.
I kind of feel like there wasn't a huge gap with Max for the majority of the race. I think when Max passed Charles for that last time, Charles couldn't keep up. Like, his tires were not as fresh. He could not keep up. And I think that is what allowed Max to pull away. I think if Checo had been behind Max or maybe even Carlos, I don't think that time would have been as big between Max and second place. I think that Charles, just being on older tires and stuff, he couldn't keep up. And so it backed everybody else up until Checo ended up passing him. So,
well, fun fact: there's been 4 races, 4 fastest laps. Max has 2. Guess who has the other 2?
Carlos.
Charles.
Ooh, oh, that's right. I should have known that because Charles had the fastest lap last week. I should have guessed that.
So 2 are Charles. Race 2 and 3 are both Charles, fastest lap, and 1 and 4 are Max.
All right. Good job, Charles. I mean, I think overall Ferrari just looks so much stronger than they did last year. I know they have their issues, and Charles especially was not happy this week with some things, but they look so much better. Their race pace is so much better. It just makes me so excited for Monza. I just hope that we can really, 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 really do something there. I think that's so exciting. And then, like I said, we don't have a race next week. The next race is China.
You want to go over the end of the race? I can put that up real quick.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's look at I totally forgot about that.
Well,
here's our standings.
We've kind of been talking about it. That's how the race ended. So we were just going over these times anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Yuki making it in the top 10.
Lando and Oscar, like, they kind of were just there. For half a second again today, I thought, ooh, is Lando going to do something? He didn't. I'm sorry, Lando. I love you.
And then your bottom 10.
Boy, Logan Sargent. Do we think they're going to replace Logan mid-season?
I wonder. I think Danny, Joe, and Logan all. I think Logan would be the easiest one to replace, but Danny and Joe need to show their stuff, or they're not going to have seats next year.
They're not. I agree. I don't think that they are. Danny, Joe, Logan, and Kevin Magnuson are my 4 that for sure are not going to have seats next year.
So here are the standings. So you've got Max in the lead at 77. Notice when I skinny this down, it abbreviated their names. We're used to seeing all their names like that.
Yeah.
But look at that. The Ferraris are at 3 and 4. Charles and Sainz, they're just a few points, 4 points apart. And then
And not that far off Perez.
He's at
5
64.
points for Leclerc. Yeah. And Max isn't running away with it just yet either. He's got 77 points to Perez's 64. So not too shabby.
Nope. And then your team standings, you've got Ferrari pretty close. And then it drops down to McLaren in the middle, and then Mercedes and Aston Martin are on top of each other.
Yeah.
But look at that to see Haas up there, like not at the bottom.
I'm saying is like they haven't had a bad year. This just was kind of a race. It was just kind of meh, for them.
Yeah.
They both finished in the points last week, and who knows, maybe in China they'll bring it back. I think they're of like kind of the normal bottom teams. They're fun to watch a lot of times this year. Not today, but like they have been kind of fun to watch. So we'll see. Williams, right now they're looking like they're going to finish last.
Yeah, between them and Steak.
Oh, Steak. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Williams can get it together and have one lucky day and score a point. I mean, James has been saying that 1 point can make all the difference. So
exactly,
it could happen.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, next weekend we'll have a little easier time recording.
Yeah. Then it's a sprint race. Our very first sprint race is China, which we'll go over that next week. But China, again, nobody's raced there since 2019, and it's a sprint race. So it's going to be
crazy. That's going to be so crazy.
Very, very.
That's right. They got canceled last year, didn't they? They're taking off the schedule last year.
Yep, sure did. So
that's going to be crazy.
There we have it.
Well, we'll see you then. It's been a fun little ride. Japan was fun, and your little treasure got his point. So yay! All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.